2016 came across the statistic that 1.1 billion people began the millennium malnourished, which is triple the population of the United States, and to me that's an absolute travesty.
Human-animal conflict is one of the largest problems that modern agriculture is creating. And as a corollary to that, you have the zoonotic diseases that are occurring as humans encroach on wild animal habitats. And we're all living through the effect of one of those zoonotic diseases right now. And I think if you speak to scientists, the next pandemic is not a question of if, it's a question of when. And I think fundamentally we have to restructure land use. Secondly, we know water is a deeply fraught issue in many parts of the world. And we have to change the use of water in agriculture. It is the second largest use of water in the world. Indoor growing, depending on what type of technology you're using, generally uses between 90 to 98% less water. And much of that is because it's enclosed. And in the field, when you irrigate a field, 80% of the water that's used is lost to evaporation. And in most indoor growing systems, you're actually capturing that evaporation. You're then recycling it, or the plant needs much less of it because they're actually retaining the moisture because they have a covering over them. Controlled environment agriculture covers a multitude of sins and a multitude of technology types. At its most basic is a plastic hoop house that just covers a plant from the elements. At its probably most sophisticated is a fully automated, robotic, inside a warehouse, climate agnostic, everything precision dosed, precision grown with cameras everywhere.
Controlled environment agriculture is the concept of controlling the inputs that the plant experiences. So the plant has a specific number of inputs. The number is around 16, and they can be broken down further. But at the highest level, if you control the plant's experience of light, irrigation, the environment, the temperatures, the humidities, the O2s, the CO2s, then you can control that plant's environment as it is cultivated. Now, there are different levels of controlled environment agriculture. In a greenhouse, you still utilize sun, though you very often have supplemental lighting, because if you're growing in greenhouses in the Netherlands, the daily light integral, or the effect of the sun on the plant, is not what it is at the equator, so you have to supplement that light. In vertical farming, everything is supplemented. Everything about this plant is controlled. So you control the temperature of the water hitting the plants, its pH, its electrical conductivity. You control the temperature of the air hitting the leaves. How fast is the air going past the plant? The O2 concentrations, the CO2 concentrations, and then the lighting in vertical farming. So a huge number of variables, but in the case of controlled environment agriculture, you control those variables closely.
Anywhere today where the climate continues to be relatively friendly to outdoor food growing will have less indoor growing. And then you'll find, significant concentrations of indoor growing in those environments where either there is a demand for constant year-round, reliable and consistent production, or where the climate is inhospitable.
Retail will benefit the most over time. I think biopharmaceuticals are going to benefit a huge amount in the short and the long term. The fact that consumers are still eating produce that has been sprayed by pesticides, that is degrading the environment with runoff running into the waterways, there needs to be a more sustainable way to do this. This kind of technology gives the consumers the choice. I want to choose whether or not the food that I eat is polluting the water or is covered in pesticides or has pesticide residues. Let the consumer make the choice. We're making early predictions and acting on them to say consumers want something different. Organic came around and we were promised, increased safety, increased nutrition, zero pesticides, and all three of those are just false. So now consumers are a little bit fed up from what we see. They're dissatisfied with the quality of the product, and in comes vertical farming with a much, much higher quality product, delivering on the value propositions that these consumers have been waiting for a long time. In the future, what we see is your farm that you manage from your mobile phone, which isn't far away, will cultivate all of the crops that you want. And this goes beyond food retail. What if I want a Chinese herbal medicine? Grow it. What if I want my own cannabis? Grow it. There are many, many more applications than just grow food to put inside of a salad bowl to consume.
I'm excited at the prospect for enormous densification. So we had the Green Revolution 60 years ago, which was really the advent of pesticides. And then the one proven benefit of genetic engineering has been the ability to densify, in particular, corn. And, more bushels of corn were able to be produced from the same acreage, because most plants don't like it when their leaves touch another plant. And then finally, I think for the developing world, what indoor growing can do is to provide a stable, reliable way of producing food with terrible climate volatility and food insecurity. And I'm not saying that any of the solutions that exist in CEA today are cheap enough to deploy in the developing world, but certainly we at Sensei are focused on that as one of our core missions.
What excites me most is the tangibility of the industry. It actually ends up producing a product, and that product has the capability to do a lot of good to a lot of people. And I think that a revolution has begun. I think the fourth agricultural revolution has begun sincerely. A combination of outdoor, indoor, and indoor sunless growing or vertical farming. The power of the innovations in all three of those different forms of cultivation are speeding up very, very quickly. And I'm excited to see those developments manifest themselves as actual impact on human health and environmental health. Every major city on earth is going to have multiple vertical farms feeding those populations. I think every biopharmaceutical company is going to have a vertical farm assisting them not only in producing the compounds they're interested in, but also researching the compounds that they can produce. People are interested in a change, especially when it comes to something so personal as your food. I see a very, very bright future for this technology, and I will stress again that it will take time, but I'm not talking 20 years, I'm talking 5 to 10.